it made me think about the other side of age bias. Because whenever I hear age bias, I'm always like, oh, gosh, that's so awful. Why are you judging people by age, right? Yet I was always thinking about it more of like, are you technically able to do certain things? Not necessarily like your appetite for ambition, your tolerance for change.
What's up, lifers, and welcome to The Daily Stand-Up with Lifetime Value, where we're giving you fresh new customer success ideas every single day. I got my man JP here. JP, do you want to say hi?
Oh.
It's not as satisfying when it's just you and me, because I fully expect it. I really want to see the response from a guest, so I feel like you wasted it. You wasted a very good one.
Yeah.
Because it's just you and me.
I know.
And I'm your host. My name is Dillon Young. JP, before we started recording, you said you really liked something I said, and I'm not just saying that, guys. JP really did say that.
I really did like it. Really did like it.
Tee it up.
Okay. So when we talk about sort of like our goals with work, we always talk sort of about work-life balance, or, maybe these things sort of like just taking work as sort of like face value, I guess. Wanting to get a bit deeper into, I think, more of purposeful work, but in a different sense. Purposeful work being, can I be a person who works at one level, not necessarily looking to be promoted, but somebody who wants to come in to do good work, and like that's it. I'm not looking for, again, to be promoted. I'm not saying that I'm not a team player or I can't work well with others, but maybe I don't want to be at all the events. So I think some of us are very intrinsically just motivated, and I just don't think that everything has to be on an escalator. Like everything does not have to automatically escalate. Like I say this with all seriousness. If you make fries at McDonald's and you're able to live and you enjoy making the fries at McDonald's, but you do not want to be a manager, like, is this okay? Or are we going to chide this person for their lack of ambition?
I'm glad you brought it back, because I that's where I was going to start. Is your initial question was, is this okay? Can I be that? And that's what I was talking about, and what you said you wanted to discuss here. I believe the answer is yes, but with caveats. It depends on the company, right? I think, I grew up in the startup world where ambition was in many ways more important than your aptitude. Any body of work you had done previously. It was, how hard are you willing to work this time? And what I said to you before we started recording is like, I don't know how valuable that is anymore, or whether maybe not. I think there is probably a ton of value in that. I was just talking with somebody today. He's like, I'm putting in 15, 16-hour days trying to stand this thing up. He's a leader of CS at a Series A organization.
Oh, okay.
But he's also 45. And I was like, how does that feel? Because I'm not even 40 yet, and I wouldn't do that. And he's like, yeah, I'm wondering whether it was the right choice. And so I think, look, does that attitude work better in a GE, in a public company? Probably. But I think that there are pockets of that also in the small technology companies. I just think it's not as prevalent.
As you said that, it made me think about the other side of age bias. Because whenever I hear age bias, I'm always like, oh, gosh, that's so awful. Why are you judging people by age, right? Yet I was always thinking about it more of like, are you technically able to do certain things? Not necessarily like your appetite for ambition, your tolerance for change. And, like you said, if it's a growing company or like a startup, there's a lot of change, volatility. And so perhaps they feel like somebody who's younger maybe doesn't need to be paid as much. There's some things I'm starting to think about in terms of like age bias, where even though that's a really bad word and, like illegal in a lot of places,
it is illegal.
You can still hear like the other side where that may be coming from. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, look, exactly. Ambition is probably the PC way of, or at least one facet of being PC about age bias. I think, this is the conversation women have all the time. I see this all the time of women talking about, I had to take a step back from my career because I was helping to build my family. And that's a big one. I think that's another facet of this. I think, it's a much larger topic, but I mean, I remember, I'm sure I've told this story on the podcast. I had a job interview years ago where they wanted me to come in and lead their CS team, I think, or maybe it was a strategic role. But they would only schedule interviews on the weekend because they were so busy. And I said, hey, no thanks. That's not going to work for me, because that to me was a sign of what they were going to expect from me. I got a family. I got a young son. Like, I'm not going to spend my weekends interviewing future CSMs. I'm not going to spend my weekends having meetings because you couldn't fit it into your regular work week. And I guess what I'll say is that there's value in companies recognizing that that's what they're looking for. But it's also, I don't agree with it.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously like just the tip of the iceberg with this topic of ambition and, how things sort of play out, because, we're talking about ambition, which is sort of more of the internal feeling or motivation. But the other side of this is like promotion, right? Like, is promotion always a good thing? Is promotion always in your best interest? I mean, there's definitely some layers to that, but yeah, I'll just say, I think, I think you hit it on the head when you said the type of company or maybe also like the kind of industry. Some people, like, maybe if you're, I don't even know if bellhop's the right word, but let's say you're working in like hospitality, man. Yeah, bleep that out. Bellhop's a derogatory term now. But if you're in like hospitality management and like maybe they want someone who's stable. Wow, that guy's been here for 10 years, always like, I don't know. I think that it's definitely more of an asset in some places than others, but I think you hit it when you said about the startups.
I struggle with this because while there are parts of it that I think are untouchable, like asking somebody to work really long hours on a regular basis, to me is tacky. It's kind of goes against what we're trying to build, particularly if there's no ownership in it. If I'm going to get paid or I've got an opportunity to get paid down the line, cool. But if I'm just a guy, or you give me some shares, but it's sort of like, it's not life-changing, like, what's the point? So I think that's like a third rail. Can't touch it. But I think, on the other hand, when I see people who, work in retail their entire life, I'm like, dude, you could get into tech sales and make a ton more money and use a lot of the same skills you already have. So, like, I even have this sort of like conundrum or paradox in my head of like, I still get caught judging people for that. Anyway, that is our time, JP. This is a fun little one, just a little one for people to noodle on. Maybe we'll continue it at another time. But for now, we got to say goodbye.
You've been listening to The Daily Standup by Lifetime Value. Please note that the views expressed in these conversations are attributed only to those individuals on this recording and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of their respective employers. For all general inquiries, please reach out via email to hello@lifetimevaluemedia.com. To learn more about advertising on the Daily Stand-Up and the Lifetime Value Media Network, please reach out via email to advertising@lifetimevaluemedia.com. Find us on YouTube at Lifetime Value and find us on the socials at Lifetime Value Media. Until next time.